Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF World Champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 221 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as ever by the infamous, the elusive Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. Yourself?
Very good, my friend. Very good. So last week's show, obviously, we had Duke McKenzie on. I've had some brilliant feedback on that, so thank you to everyone that has given it a listen, and also thanks to the people that sent in the kind words. If you haven't yet listened, go check it out. It's a very lengthy interview, very in-depth, and very, very interesting, actually. There was some great bits, some real funny bits as well, and it was one of my favourite interviews I've done, actually. So yeah, thanks about that. Moving on to the part one, we're going to split the show up a little bit differently. There's absolutely nothing to review whatsoever, so part one is just going to consist of a couple of minutes of talking about the latest news, and that is pretty much it. So we're just going to discuss some news now, and then we'll bring in our first guest, and then of course part two will be the preview part. There's a couple of cards to mention, and then we'll bring in our second and final guest. So we're back to now having 2 guests per week like usual. But yeah, before I carry on rambling too much, bring in the latest news, Ayaz, if you can.
The fight's announced. Gary Russell Jr. will defend his WBC February title against Tugstot Nyambar.
Yeah, obviously Gary Russell Jr., a friend of the show, someone I quite like, actually. Got a bit of a soft spot for him. He was caught doing something a bit silly not too long ago when he, made that video with Leo Santa Cruz's dad and stuff. That was a bit distasteful in my opinion, a bit stupid of him. But he takes on a very good fighter here. Those that won't know Nyambar, he is a guy who had a real good amateur career. He's 11-0 with 9 KOs as a professional. But yeah, his amateur career was really the impressive one. He boxed the who's who of names in the amateurs. He got beat a few times. He lost to Naldi Nubali and stuff like that. But other than that, he had some brilliant wins. Wins over Mohamed Wazim. He lost also to Rabisi Ramirez. I think we were mentioning him on last week's show. He beat Declan Geraghty in the amateurs. There's a bunch of guys that he beat in the amateurs. So he's a very, very good amateur fighter. And he kind of gets, I suppose, thrown in the deep end, if you like, quite early in his pro career, so it'd be interesting to see what he has. But Gary Russell Jr., you can't really bet against him. I mean, every time we see him in the ring, which is at the minute about once a year, which is a real shame. He's just not as active as we'd liked him to have been. But he is a phenomenal fighter, and if he boxed 2 or 3 times a year, stuff like that, he'd probably be getting in my top 10 pound for pound list. He's a great fighter, Gary Russell Jr.
Okay, also on the undercard, Guillermo Rigondeaux will face Liborio Solis for the WBA regular bantamweight title on February 8th at the PPL Center in Allentown, America.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, that one is, by the way. But Rigondeaux against Liborio Solis. Those I'm sure of you that will remember, Liborio Solis had the 2 fights with Jamie McDonnell. One ended with a points win for McDonnell, in which a lot of people felt like Solis did enough to win, and McDonnell got a bit of a hometown decision. Even though, if I remember correctly, I think the fight was in Monaco. But yeah, the rematch happened, and then I think McDonnell got a cut really early on, something like that. Ended up with a no decision. after 3 rounds. So yeah, he's been in a few fights. Obviously, he boxed Yamanaka as well, lost to him, but he's a solid fighter, and we saw that against Jamie Mack. That was the last fight, he lost that first fight with Jamie Mack, and he turned up. He's a very hungry guy, and to be honest, at this part of Rigondeau's career, I think hunger is his problem. So he could get out-hearted or out-hungered. It's going to probably be who wants it more, and it seems like in this part of Rigondeau's career, he just doesn't have that hunger. So it could be interesting, and that's encouraging signs, really, because Rigondeau not always in interesting fights. But yeah, that's it for that one. That, of course, like you say, takes place Saturday, February the 8th in Pennsylvania, USA. It's going to be on Showtime.
Yep, and the final news is Julio Cesar Martinez will face Jay Harris for the WBC flyweight title on the Mikey Garcia v Jesse Vargas undercard at the Ford Center in USA.
Yep, the Ford Center in Texas. It's an intriguing fight. Jay Harris, I know there's a few people that listen to the podcast that are big fans of Jay Harris, the Welshman, 17-0, a guy that I always, paid attention to. He had a few decent wins. Can't remember who the first guy was who he beat, where I started saying, this guy could be quite special. I mean, he's got a decent record, obviously, the likes of Thomas Asomba on there as well, a tough guy with a deceiving record. He beat Ross Murray for the Commonwealth. He's gone on from that, and I think the win against Angel Moreno, obviously Moreno was a guy that Charlie Edwards defended his WBC world title against, and he's a tough guy, Moreno, even though, Charlie Edwards beat him quite comfortably. He ended up beating him unanimously. It wasn't like there was any easy rounds in there for Charlie Edwards, He kept coming forward. He's as strong as hell. And like I say, a complete tough guy. And when I heard that he was taking on Jay Harris, I thought, this could get quite interesting here. But no, Jay Harris completely shut him out on one card, and then the other 2 cards were very wide as well. Not to mention Moreno also came in, I think he might have just been overweight, or he might have made it on the second attempt or something like that. That one was for the EBU European flyweight title. So he's proved to us there that he is at least European level. He's been a European champion. He's moving up now to world class level here. And then most recently his win, Jay Harris over Paddy Barnes. He looked real good there. Obviously Paddy Barnes didn't turn out to be the professional that we all thought he'd be, and Jay Harris managed to stop him in 4. But he seems big for the weight. Not so much in height, but he seems quite filled out for the weight and stuff like that. He looks good, he looks healthy, and the way he took Barnes apart, it was real impressive. Like I say, Barnes didn't live up to the professional fighter we thought he'd be, but Jay Harris kind of, told us once again, or proved to us once again there, that he's a much higher level than the likes of Paddy Barnes and Angel Moreno, and Angel Moreno, a former world title challenger, Paddy Barnes, a former world title challenger. He's beaten both with ease, so it goes to show he's worthy of a world title shot, in my opinion, and he gets it here. The only problem is it's against this absolute animal, the Mexican banger that last time out against Rosales, proved to us that he's actually got a gas tank late on as well, so he's a complete danger, man. And, as much as I'd love to see Jay Harris win, because I tell you what, there's a short list of Welsh world champions, and a win here would be up there with one of the most impressive ones, I have to say it, because this guy Martinez looks real special. But yeah, Jay Harris, I mean, he's got the tools to box and stuff like that, but ultimately I just don't think he's got the punching power to keep the Mexican off of him, and that will probably end up being his undoing. But I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to see him win, but it's a tough task. Even those close to Jay Harris must know that.
Yep, and that's it for the news.
Okay, thank you, Ayaz. Well, that's it then for part 1. The final thing to do is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the top heavyweight contender, the people's champ. It is, of course, Mr. Michael Hunter. Mike, welcome back on the show, my man.
Hey, how you doing? Glad to be back.
What's going on?
Glad to have you back, Mike. We last spoke in November. It was just after the Povetkin fight had been announced for the first time. Obviously, the fight took place in Saudi on that Joshua Ruiz 2 undercard. I purposely waited a little while to speak to you to, let everything sink in. I know you were here, there, and everywhere, but just talk me through that fight from your perspective, looking back now.
I thought I won the fight. That didn't change. Like I said, I think I feel like I could have done a lot more different things to make it more convincing, very subtle things. So I think if I fought again, I would make the fight much easier. So, but the dude definitely had some veteran moves, and he's a vet, so there was a lot of different things that he did in there to, be able to fight back and make it competitive.
And of course, you watched the fight back on the TV. Did you see anything on the TV that you perhaps didn't notice in the ring on the night? Obviously, you watched it back on a nice TV at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the only time I've seen it too.
Thought you might have watched it back a couple of times after, but all right, cool. Did you see anything on the TV that you didn't, perhaps see on the night, aside from dust, of course?
I feel like even on TV it was even more convincing. You could see a better, have a better view of the ring and all different angles and stuff like that. It just confirmed more of my, what I was already thinking.
Yeah, because I think there was a moment where you, in the fight, you hurt him to the body, but he kind of winced on the blind side of you and the referee. But the camera, obviously, watching it back on the TV, you can see. I'm sure that happened. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely had that, but I just couldn't finish him off. I thought I had him in a few of those rounds, from 1 to 12. 1, 11. 7, somewhere around there. Like I said, he was a vet. He just had a lot of different experience and knew how to stay alive and go those 12 rounds.
And what do you want to do next, Mike? Because obviously, fight fans and, of course, yourself, we all kind of leave this fight, feeling a little bit, I suppose, I don't know, I want to say kind of disappointed, not because of your performance, but obviously the judges, we don't think the right outcome came of this. I've barely seen anyone at all online that thought Povetkin won. It seems like he was real lucky, so it's not a satisfying kind of result, I guess, for not just yourself, but everyone else. So what do you want to do? Do you want to look for that rematch? Do you want to just move on? What do you think you should be doing next?
I just want the biggest and best fights for me. I think there's other fights out there for me right now. If the crowd, if the fans wanted to fight, and it was something they were asking for, I would definitely be interested. But I really think that there's other great fights out there for me, especially over there across seas in London. And I think there's a lot of competitive and good fights and a lot of shows that I could put on, over there 2020.
Another thing is, a lot of people, of course, would like to see the rematch. Whether or not that's something you're too interested in, I'm not quite sure. But Povetkin's team, if I was part of his team, I'd probably be advising him to not take the rematch, because he took a hell of a lot of punishment, if we're being honest. When should we expect an announcement for your next fight, Mike? Or if you can't tell us that, when are you hoping to be back in the ring?
I want to fight somewhere in April. Hopefully somewhere next to Anthony Joshua, maybe on the same undercard. Then I heard he was fighting around the same time, April. But we'll see. I'm not sure, but I'm thinking in April.
And gut feeling that'll be in the UK?
I would think so. Like I said, nothing is totally official, but I think they're looking at April in the UK. So I'm excited for that. The fans out there, bar none, are the best fans out there. So I'm excited to be fighting over there if that does happen.
Yeah, like I say, when you were over here straight after the fight, we went to that mall, that shopping mall, and man, you were getting mobbed by the fans. I mean, Daniel Dubois and Tommy Fury were there, but everyone seemed to be there for you, man. They wouldn't leave you alone. Mike, I want to get your reaction to the Joshua Ruiz fight. I mean, were you shocked at how dominating Joshua's win was? I mean, it seemed like Ruiz just couldn't get near him. It was quite frustrating almost to see.
Well, I think it wasn't really shocking. I think Anthony played all his cards right, and Andy didn't play his cards right. So I think it just made for a very dominant performance. So I mean, we can't take nothing from Anthony. I'm not trying to take anything from Anthony, but I just think that had a lot to do with Andy Ruiz, not being so prepared for it, and also, like I said before, that, Anthony Joshua is aware of Andy Ruiz and him being a threat now. So I knew that was going to play a big part in the fight. And, you see what happens.
And what do you want to see both men do next? I think Dillian White's already been talking about perhaps, he'd like to fight Andy Ruiz. That's a fight I quite like the sound of, to be honest. But what do you want both men to do next if it was up to you?
I would like that fight for him to fight Dillian. He's across the pond. They probably might not want to use him again. I'm not really sure. There's for Andy Ruiz, but that would be a decent fight. I never thought about that, but I was thinking that he would have to go back over and start fighting PBC fighters again. But maybe there's an opportunity for him to fight some people from on the zone.
And Anthony Joshua, what do you want his next move to be?
Anthony, I think, has different. I definitely don't want it to be Pulev. I heard they were trying to pull that. I think that's like a, almost like a cop-out type fight. But he just got his belts back. Maybe he's trying to bask in it or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. But I think he should be trying to fight, somebody with a name.
And what are your thoughts on Tyson Fury's decision to, break ties with his former trainer Ben Davison and link up with Sugar Hill just 2 months out from his rematch with Wilder? It seems a bit crazy, but a lot of things to do with Fury do seem quite crazy anyway.
Yeah. Well, you never know, especially when it comes to Fury, somebody of that caliber, and he has a lot of experience. So there could be little tedious things that make a actual big difference when it comes to training and, in the camp and making sure, the camp is going right, So it's very hard to say. I think Tyson Fury is a great fighter regardless of whoever's in the ring with him. I mean, whoever's in his corner. So I think he'll do just fine.
And just finally, Mike, any closing words at all for our listeners before I let you go?
No, continue to watch me. Hopefully I'll be fighting in somewhere in April. Be looking forward for my entrance. I'm going to try to make it bigger and better than the last one.
We'll look forward to that. Listen, Mike, it's always great speaking with you, my friend. Once again, Happy New Year, and I'm sure that we'll catch up again at some point later on in the year.
Yeah, likewise.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this show. Usually the news, but of course we covered that in part 1. Let's move straight on to the preview part. It is going to be a quite short show this week. We're going to start here at the preview part. It takes place on Friday. Friday the 10th of January at the Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey, USA. Let's start with the undercard. We've got one to watch actually here. If I don't think it's getting shown on TV over here, but if you can find a stream, definitely tune in. Or of course, if you're in the States, it's on Showtime. Jerome Ennis, he's being talked about as one of the brightest prospects in world boxing. A very good puncher as well from Philadelphia, so not too far from his hometown here. He takes on Bakhtiar Ayubov, who's 14-1 with a draw. That one's over 10 rounds. Like I say, Jerome Ennis 24-0, certainly one to watch. And then the 2 world title fights on the card involve 4 women. So let's start with Alicia Napoleon. She has a record of 12-1. She's in a 10 2-minute round contest against Edin Kederos, I think it is, 7-0. Her own may go because, Alicia Napoleon, a good fighter. That one's for the WBA and the IBF World Female Super Middleweight titles. And then topping the bill, Claressa Shields, friend of the show, the two-time Olympic gold medalist, the undefeated possible GWOAT. She fights for the vacant WBC and vacant WBO World Female Super Welterweight titles against Ivana Habazin, 20-3, former welterweight world champion. Of course, that one's over 10 2-minute rounds. Ivana Habazin will be joining us just after this preview part. She will be our second guest, so I'm looking forward to that one. But a brilliant fight there. Obviously, like I say, Claressa Shields been on the show many times. I've got a good relationship with her. I'm looking forward to this Habazin interview. I'm going to have to sit on the fence here. May the best female win. Moving out now to the Mark G. Tess Arena in the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Atlantic City. So all the action's happening in Atlantic City this weekend, but this one takes place on the Saturday. This is a brilliant fight, by the way. Jesse Hart, 26-2. He's in a 10-rounder against Joe Smith Jr., 24-3. I'll tell you why that's a brilliant fight. Joe Smith Jr., we all know he can really bang. He had a fantastic 2016, I think it was. I felt like he deserved a real shout-in for Fighter of the Year. That was the year I think he beat Bernard Hopkins and a couple of other guys. But anyway, good fighter. He's proven. He's mixed it at the top really of that 175 division. Jesse Hart, obviously his two losses came to Gilberto Ramirez at 168, but since moving up, I think he's had the one fight. Didn't he fight? I think he fought. Did he fight Sullivan Barrera? I think he did. I'm not checking any facts here. I think it's off the top of my head. I think he beat Sullivan Barrera, and I think Joe Smith Jr. actually lost to Barrera, if I'm not mistaken. So that's interesting there. But Jesse Hart, he was quite big for super middle. He's moved up to 175, and this is the first time where he's really going to be taking on someone that I'd say punches harder than him, because Jesse Hart can really punch. But, Sullivan Barrera doesn't always take a punch the best. He's been down a handful of times. I think Joe Smith put him down in like the first round when they boxed. But, Joe Smith Jr., you wouldn't want to get caught trading hooks with him. So it could be interesting there. All the best, though, to Jesse Hart, friend of the show. Once upon a time, he told me he wants to eventually fight Anthony Joshua at heavyweight. He's a bit crazy, the man from Philadelphia. Moving out now to the final bill to mention. It takes place at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, USA. Couple fights to mention on the bill. Firstly, the undercard, friend of the show, Hector Tanahara, 18-0. He's in a 10-rounder against Juan Carlos Burgos, who's 33-3 with 2 draws. Burgos, seen him in there a few times before, quite an experienced guy. And I tell you what, Tanahara needs to be on his A game there, because that is a real banana skin, Even though he's got the 3 losses, he's quite crafty, Burgos. And that could be quite tricky for him there, actually. And the top of the bill, Jaime Munguia, 34-0. It's his first fight at middleweight. Obviously, a former super welterweight / light middleweight 154 world champion, undefeated, and it's his 35th fight. He takes on friend of the show. It's his 34th fight. 30-3 is the record as it stands. Spike O'Sullivan, Gary O'Sullivan, friend of the show, like I say, that's a 12-rounder there. You've got to side with Munguia, haven't you, Ayaz? Because, he was a bit of a wrecking ball, really, at 154. But saying that, his last couple of defences, I think both of them were quite controversial, quite close. And like I say, he's moving up against Spike O'Sullivan, who can really bang. So again, I can't see that fight being anything but a phone booth kind of fight. There's going to be lots and lots of action there. Both men, I'm sure, are gonna swing, with everything they've got. But you have to obviously side with Munguia. He is, even though it's his first fight at middleweight, he is, he's a top fighter. Spike O'Sullivan's sometimes been a little bit exposed when he steps up in class, but this guy's stepping up in weight class, so it could be interesting. But you have to side with Munguia. I'm sure you'd probably agree.
Yes, I'm definitely going to agree. So I'm going to go with a Munguia to win by knockout.
Yeah, sadly, I think you're probably right. But all the best out there in San Antonio, Texas, for Spike O'Sullivan. I'd love to see him get a win, because I tell you what, if he were to win that fight there, then boy, oh boy, that'd probably mean a world title fight next for him. Golden Boy have been quite good to him, and of course it's a Golden Boy show, but they obviously want their man Munguia to win, because again, Golden Boy's situation right now with a few of their boxers, it's not going all smooth sailing at the minute. But anyway, that wraps up the preview part of the show. That is literally all the talking done from myself. The final thing, of course, to do is to welcome our second and final guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former IBF Female Welterweight champion and former IBO Middleweight champion, Miss Ivana Habazin. Ivana, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much to having me in the show.
No problem. It's great to have you on, Ivana. So, obviously, this fight against Claressa Shields, it's been rescheduled for January the 10th in Atlantic City. From the very beginning, though, when this fight was originally made, before all the drama that unfolded, it seemed like there was a bit of bad blood there. Where did that start, or was there no bad blood to begin with, Ivana?
Well, this is really interesting question, but I would ask Claressa about bad blood, because I think she always made a problem, even there is no problem. But for me, I'm focused on her and on this fight, just like for my next opponent. I know it's a big chance for me, definitely, to become third division world champion, but it's not like I have some bad blood in me, or whatever. Of course, certain stuff happened, but all this stuff what happened gave me more motivation.
And obviously, when the fight was set for October the 5th, everyone, I'm sure, has seen all the horrific videos and stuff. But following the weigh-in, your trainer James Ali Bashir was attacked. It was nothing short of disgusting to see it online, let alone actually being there yourself to witness it firsthand. At that point, Ivana, was there a danger of it perhaps becoming a bit personal, more than just a normal fight, but actually a bit personal now, a bit emotional?
But definitely it's more personal. I will not say it's more emotional, because for me, you can use your emotions in the ring, you just need to be focused and calm. But of course, what happened to my coach, it was very bad for boxing community, and even, for example, this fight first supposed to be in August, so then was rescheduled for October 5th. Finally, we came to this point that the fight needs to be, but then happened what happened. And of course, even on the press conference, or, before the fight, Claressa Shields always has this bad attitude, start talking bad stuff and everything, and because this is her way, what she's doing. But for me, she's just nothing than a bully, So it's not like I actually I pay attention on her. For me, was the most important thing fight. So after all this stuff, what happened? Of course, she came out with a lot of stuff. She always talk, but you know what? Talk is cheap anyway. So I had, after the fight, one statement, and she almost maybe, I don't know, maybe every 10 days she has something to say. So, of course, I supposed to answer her, but every time she's pissed off. So, this is and she tried to make this fight like it's a war. But, she said it's not anymore about the fight now, it's a war. So I will make, this is her wish, so she will get the war.
And my last question on the first fight, obviously at the time, I just want people to understand this, it was your team, of course, that made the decision to not go ahead with a fight. Obviously you wouldn't have been able to have your trainer there. Was that a hard pill to swallow, if you like? Did that bother you? Obviously it was the right thing to do. I'm sure you know that now, but was it a hard thing to do to miss out on that fight?
Well, when they asked me for the fight, I didn't need even a second to say no, because this is something what was really disrespectful, and there is no way to go in the fight without my coach.
And Ivana, I know that you are super duper, against bullying, and you've got plans after this fight to, use the platform that you'll be on, that you're on, to bring, lots of anti-bullying campaigning, especially back in your country in Croatia. You want to use this moment to really shed some light on the, the whole bullying thing, not just of course in your country, but worldwide. Obviously no one likes bullies. You brand Claressa as a bully, if I'm not mistaken. Just tell me what you're looking to do in the future, with the spotlight that you're going to have, and use it to your advantage to bring light on such a bad thing like bullying.
Yeah, that's correct. So like long time ago, I'm always sensitive about kids and everything, but bully is something what is in our lives, all the time. And for me, like I said, Claressa Shields is just a bully, and you always need to stand up, and show people like her. You need to show that she can do all this stuff. She can't do all this stuff, So in some way, definitely, this is like this give me a more motivation to do something, because I think like with examples like this, when you don't let, for example, she can't come in my head what she was doing before to the other opponents, because in my life I had a lot of connection with bullies before, so for me it's nothing new, and there is always a certain way how you can beat this. So for me, like I said, with this platform is the most important thing, to show the kids, to everyone, that they always can beat the bully.
And Ivana, you mentioned that you want to take boxing to a new height. You don't believe that Claressa is the girl that can do that. She obviously brands herself the GOAT, the greatest woman of all time. Do you agree with that? I mean, what would you do if you were in the driving seat? A win here, you'd be right at the top. How differently would you do things, or how bad is Claressa at this, I suppose, impression of the GOAT?
Well, first, I will never call myself a GOAT, because there is a certain time when, for example, women in boxing has a really good fighters, like legend. So like she's talking like she's the best ever. So I definitely don't agree with this. And even she said that she calling out like Layla Ali a couple of times, and that she can beat her and everything. I mean, when I started with boxing, first for who I know, of course, was Layla Ali, and even we know for Christy Martin, Lucia Riker, and Wolf. For me, all of them are really legends, and they are better than Claressa Shields. Claressa Shields can beat them 100%. So, but the most important thing, if we look at these women's, they was totally different, and they show respect. And for me, of course, I'm sure I'm gonna beat Claressa Shields. Later, I would like to fight Katie Taylor. I would like to fight Cecilia Brækhus too, because I want this rematch against Cecilia. And in all of this, of course, if I beat them all, it's not if, when, but in all of this, you always need to be humble. You need to be big, but you need to be humble. So for me, this is the most important thing.
And Ivana, I know that Claressa has branded you as a racist in a statement that I've seen. Just how do you respond to that? Obviously, I'm not sitting here and saying that you're a racist for 1 second, but how do you respond to that? I know you wanna probably hit back at that, and I'm just giving you a chance to kind of respond to that there.
Well, sometimes the best response is ignorance, and so I don't actually. Both my coaches are black, so how can I be a racist? I never even talk. I don't watch on people, are they white, are they black, For me, people are good or bad, so that's it, and I respect people. But I know if somebody is always talking about stuff like racist or something, what, for example, Claressa Shields talking all the time, maybe she should ask herself, is she a racist?
And Ivana, I know that you've had a couple of interactions or whatever on Twitter. You're not really someone who likes to, get on social media and talk so much. But Claressa's blocked you, if I'm not mistaken. What's your view on that? Have you got a view that perhaps she can give it and not take it?
I don't know, I think definitely, because I think she feeds herself with good stuff, with all these people who is telling her that she's the best, whatever. And if somebody give her a critic, she can handle with this. So that's actually talk a lot about her. But she always write, and even at the beginning, a bad stuff to me and whatever, I never answer or something like this, because I don't care. There is gonna be always a people who's gonna like you, who's gonna hate you, whatever. For me, I don't care, because I know why I'm doing all this stuff. It's because I enjoying in this, so I don't need some cheap talk to bring myself up.
Have you had enough time to push everything to the... It sounds like you have, but I'm asking you anyway. Have you had enough time to kind of push all those horrible events to the back of your mind and just concentrate on the fight once again, the same kind of mindset you had going into the first one?
Well, it's for me, when I know what is my goal, and for example, like, this fight can change all my life. So of course I have only one focus, and I will not let the other things from outside to change anything, So I don't think about what happened before. I'm only focused on my training, and I'm focused on this fight. That's all, of course I have certain things with what I supposed to dealing at home and everything, but I always give 100% of me. So maybe in some way, right now, maybe I'm more hungry to prove like that I'm better than her, that I'm the best. So for me, all this what happened maybe is just maybe it's better, because I think that after these 3 months I will be much better and different fighter than I supposed to be in October.
And I must of course ask, how is Mr. Bashir now, Ivana?
Well, he's getting better. He's still not recovered. He can't fight. He's like every week in hospital, has some exams. They're checking on him, but recovery is long. So, but he's getting better. This is the most important thing.
Yes, of course. All prayers with him. And you're now in the interim period being trained by Steve Upshur for this fight in particular. Steve, obviously, for those that may not know, being the brother of Eddie Chambers. How's that working out for you, Ivana, yourself and Steve? Well,
when I met Steve, we really have like a good connection on the first. So he knows, even Bashir is for him like a father. He knows him a long time ago, and when we decide that he's gonna train me. It was definitely something important. But when we start working, I can say that he brought some new stuff, and I'm enjoying in training, and it's different. Some stuff are very different because he was a fighter. He was in the ring. He has a lot of fights and some big fights, So he has one experience from the ring, and I learned some new stuff. What I'm sure will be very, very helpful for me.
And, like we said, January 10th is the date for the vacant WBO and WBC World Super-Welterweight titles. I've seen what Claressa says. She's been posting saying that she believes she's going to get, I think it's her third KO. She's expecting a knockout. It seems like she's trying to overlook you already. I'm guessing, this is going to be a very, very entertaining fight. Obviously, you said it yourself, the events that happened, it seems crazy to say, but perhaps they've made the fight a lot more interesting, even though something like that shouldn't have happened for this to happen. But it's very interesting. Everyone's going to be watching this one. I'm expecting a fireworks kind of fight. Would you love to knock her out? I'm sure you would, but how do you see it going? Do you win on points? Do you win by KO? How do you see it going?
Well, she wants KO, so she will get KO. So I'm gonna knock her out.
Okay, short and sweet. And just Ivana, any closing message at all, just to your fans over here in the UK? Obviously, a lot of us over here seen the footage of what happens. A lot of us are now behind you. They want to see you become victorious on January 10th. What's your message to your supporters over here in the UK?
I really want to say big thank you to all people who gave and show me support. It was really a lot of people. And the most important thing is, I definitely think that Claressa Shields is not a good example for women's boxing. So I really want to beat her, and my wish is to put women's boxing on one biggest level. So with this victory, I hope I'm gonna do that.
And also, I just almost forgot about this one. Obviously, your manager reminded me to ask you about this. A potential fight in the future that really interests you, Katie Taylor. Just tell me about that. Obviously, being something for you in the future. If you just want to give me a sentence on that, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. For me, I always accept challenges. I like challenges, and I would like to fight the best female fighters. Right now there is Claressa Shields, Cecilia Brækhus, and Katie Taylor. So, and I don't expect from them to go up or to go down. I'm ready to go in the division where they are. So after Claressa Shields, actually Claressa Shields is my primary goal and concern right now. So after this fight, when I win, I can think about next fights, but definitely Katie Taylor is a huge star. Boxing in UK is getting bigger and bigger, and I would definitely like to fight with her.
And we'd all love to see that. It sounds like your 2020 will be real exciting, Ivana. But listen, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Best of luck for January 10th in Atlantic City, and I hope that we can catch up sometime after the fight.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 221 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the top heavyweight contender Michael Hunter, and of course the former IBF Female Welterweight World Champion Ivana Habazin. Last but not least, I'd like to thank you all for listening once again to this week's podcast. You are the greatest listeners in the podcast world. I'm about to head to the airport to fly out to the States to be ringside for Claressa Shields versus Ivana Habazin. Next week's podcast will hopefully be hosted by myself and Eddie Chambers, so look out for that one. Remember to tell a friend to tell a friend, tell them to tell their friends, and we shall see you all again next week.